Good evening, welcome to QUT Web News. Work at Patrick Stevedores Brisbane docks came to a halt today over a long-running pay dispute, but the Maritime Union of Australia says workers are willing to work if the shipping company would let them.
Shipping containers sit idle at the Patrick dock at Fisherman Island. Today the dispute affected more than 100 workers at Patrick's wharves in Brisbane and hundreds more in Sydney, and is expected to extend to Fremantle tomorrow.
There are limitations in place, but that's fully in line with Fair Work Australia.
The limited union bans include not working overtime, but they've been trumped by their employer.
We're not on strike. We've been told there is no work for us today.
National negotiations over pay and conditions have stalled. The union wants safety concerns addressed, along with a 6% pay increase.
We go to the table in good faith, we leave the table with nothing.
Patrick are offering a 5% wage rise, offset by productivity improvement. Company director Paul Garrity said in a media release, "After lengthy and significant negotiations between the parties, we are still far apart as evidenced by the MUA decision to ramp up its industrial action. Wharfies won't be paid for today, but they won't surrender. They want a quick resolution, thereby avoiding the violent conflicts of the past."
Or stop, with their little secret phone messages about they're going to cause a massive industrial dispute in this country again on the wharves. That's not what we want. It's not what we wanted in '98.
The parties have already been to the official negotiating table more than 10 times. Patrick Stevedores has indicated it wants to work out the differences in the Fair Work Commission. It's requested a union response by 5 o'clock today. Karen Adam, QUT News.
A leading demographer today blamed a lack of interstate migration for low house prices. He says southeast Queenslanders have had a tough time since the global financial crisis, but there is good news on the way.
Queensland used to attract more than 30,000 migrants from interstate. In the last 2 years, that figure has dropped to less than 10,000. Bernard Salt says Queensland's property success is dependent on the markets of other states.
People are confident of selling their house in Hornsby or in Cogra, crystallising value and converting it into a residential property in Queensland.
Developing costs also play a part.
The costs of providing infrastructure are a lot higher here than they are in other states, and those things add up to, making Queensland a more difficult place to do business.
Queensland is also attracting one generation in particular.
Baby boomers make up almost 1/3 of the state's population, and that's set to grow. The Australian Bureau of Statistics predict 1.3 million more will call Queensland home by 2021.
The oldest baby boomers will turn 65 next year, and many of them are leaving the workforce. But Bernard Salt says we can expect a turnaround within the next few years.
Queensland property will remain in the doldrums, and I certainly see that throughout the balance of 2011, but I have great hopes for 2012.
Rebecca Eisen, QUT News.
For those who want a taste of Italy without the expense of travelling there, the Mediterranean Mecca has come to town as Queenslanders help celebrate the country's 150th anniversary of unification.
The sounds of Italy reverberated through the city streets this morning at the official launch of Italian Week. Organizers say the 8-day festival will highlight all that is good about Italy and Italian culture.
From architecture through to food and wine and the way people live and enjoy their social time.
Jan Powers organizes local street markets throughout the Brisbane region. She says it's important to showcase Italian culture in the community.
It's very important because the Italians were an enormous help to us in the early years, and I think there's something about Italy that we grabbed: olive oil, tomatoes, and a quality of eating.
Queenslanders say Italian Week is a success at bringing the community together.
It's an opportunity to spend a whole week in indulgence, from food to fashion to cars to architecture to listening to musicians.
A lot of the younger generations of the Italians don't really come out much anymore, but when it's Italian Week, they all do. Everyone gets out.
The celebration starts tomorrow and continues through next week. This year, organizers will take it one step further. Not only will the Treasury Casino and Newstead House show off the Italian flag colors, the Story Bridge will too show off its red, white and green pride. Frank Carmine, QUT News.
New research into consumer coffee preferences has begun in Queensland. It's hoped the results will help to inform the Australian coffee industry how to better cater for caffeine lovers.
The research being run by the Queensland Government and the University of Queensland is being carried out in two sections. The first part involves trained panellists who will taste and smell different coffees. They'll then rate it based on the special coffee language they've developed. The second step includes 250 consumers who'll be paid to rate the same coffees but provide feedback in more general terms. The two lots of data will be combined to understand what segments of the population like which particular things about their coffee.
So what are the complex aromas and flavours that really get them going? And particularly, we want to understand how Australian coffee relates to all of that.
She says the research is important as coffee drinking plays a significant role in Australian society.
Everybody likes to sit around and have a cup of coffee in the morning.
Coffee lovers agree.
If I don't go to a cafe and sit and have a coffee, I'll get a takeaway coffee.
Cafe owners say they support Australian-grown coffee.
The Australian palate has gone for more of a smoother profile, so we tend to use Arabica beans, which are less caffeinated but smoother taste.
While the scientists continue testing, coffee lovers will continue to do what they do best.
For many, going for a coffee provides the perfect opportunity for a business meeting or a catch-up with friends. For some, it even replaces mealtime.
It's expected the research will take 3 years. Nairi Callaghan, QUT News.
The action's about to get underway at Lang Park, but it's unlikely the unseasonally cold night ahead will help take the heat out of the opening Origin clash or deter fans.
Origin fever has hit Brisbane, both on and off the field for the sellout game.
Go Maroons! Yes, rah, rah, rah! Woo!
Queenslanders making it clear they wanted the Blues crushed. Both teams took a walk through the city to chat with fans. They even managed to get some practice in. The Maroons are hoping they can pull off their 6th consecutive series win.
It's going to be a really competitive, aggressive, unrelenting type of game. It's going to be a bit of a grind and, it's going to be a battle of the wills, really.
But this hasn't deterred the Blues.
We're confident we can win. And as I said, we've had a terrific week and quite confident, actually.
There's also the added pressure being the farewell season for Queensland captain Darren Lockyer.
If the end result that we're going to be successful, he gets a chance to go out the way he deserves, a winner.
The team says their focus now, though, is on Game 1. A television deal between Russell Crowe, the NRL and Fox Sports means the whole Origin series will be beamed live into the United States.
40 million Americans are expected to tune in tonight and learn a little more about rugby league. The game will also be seen in the UK, Canada, the Middle East, Africa and parts of Asia. Stephanie Scott, QUT News.
The Queensland Firebirds were handed the keys to Brisbane today to celebrate their championship grand final win. But for some, the big news today was their inclusion in the Australian World Championship squad. The Firebirds' unbeaten season was rewarded with the biggest representation in the national selection camp, which starts on Friday. 6 of the Firebirds, who completed an unbeaten record season, make up the team of 23. The final squad of 12 for the world title defence in Singapore will be announced after the camp on Monday.
Time now for a look at the weather. It was a fine but cold day today with moderate south to southwesterly winds, fresh at times throughout the region. Our city-based weather cam showed how there was a fine start to the day here in the Queensland capital, with just a few clouds developing mid-morning, but leaving a clear sky ahead of a cool night. Around the nation tomorrow, and showers will continue in most of the southern capitals, but Darwin will be fine with an expected top of 29. Mostly fine conditions are expected throughout Queensland. That brings you up to date with the weather.
And that's all the news we have for now.
We'll be back tomorrow with more QUT News. Goodbye.
Goodbye.